Recently crowned world champion Greg Herbold thrilled the crowd with his flashy style he acquired from a motocross background. Herbold said his basic philosophy on downhill racing is to go as hard as you can and hope you don't crash.
What's up, guys and gals? My name is Greg Herbold. I was the first official downhill world champion in 1990. I'm 53 years old and I live in Ignacio, Colorado. This is actually my race bike, same bike I used that day, pretty much completely intact.
Welcome to Durango, Colorado. It's late September 1990 and the first officially sanctioned World Mountain Bike Championships are just getting underway. The downhill race was the original event in mountain bike. Hometown favorite Greg Herbold did well in the qualifying round and is expected to place in the top 3.
Swires Gulch was really hot. I was flying through there. There's like big water bars and big jumps, and I was just bunny hopping all of them at like 45, smoking. It seemed pretty smooth actually, but.
And Greg Herbold from Durango, Colorado pulls off a first place finish on the World Championship downhill in front of his hometown crowd, giving him the chance to wear one of the coveted championship rainbow jerseys.
All right, Greg Herbold on the course right now. Let's cast your eyes up there. It's going to be a good one.
Let's start the cheers. This is Durango's very own. Let him know.
He's got it 640. $6:37.
1990 Miata Ridge Runner team, Hairball Edition. And the fact that there's a 25-year dinosaur piece of history, I think is pretty cool. One of the first things to notice is it's an actual steel frame. It's a production Miata Ridge Runner team, spline triple butted tubing. They know how to make a good steel bike. Obviously it has Dior XT STI shifters and derailleurs and stuff. These were all prototype parts. Shimano hadn't released those at that point in time, and I was a Shimano test rider at the time. So they don't work anymore, unfortunately. Probably notice here that this may seem like a rather large crankset and chainring compared to modern standards. This is a 50 big ring. Courses were different back then than they are now. They weren't as steep, and we did a lot of transition sections on dirt roads before we went into single tracks. And we actually used those gears with the larger front chainring than say the traditional 28, 38, 48. With the 50 on there, it kept the chain better, gave me a better chain angle, and I could cross chain without having issues. And let's face it, big chain rings look bitchin'. The most important part about the bike is the fork, the RS1. I got my very first RockShox in 1988, and basically I spent 2 years screwing with them. Suspension was a big part of the component, and luckily for me, I just persevered and annoyed Paul Turner enough that not only was I sponsored by 1990, but I had a huge advantage over the other riders in the sense that I had a lot of experience with the fork. And I knew how to set it up. So for the world's bike, it was not a production fork. It was slightly longer travel. From a 2-inch fork, it was actually about 2 3/8 of an inch, which may not seem like 3/8 of an inch is a lot, but it made a difference. The brakes were all about feel. The key on the brakes were that we had developed new cantilever brakes for Shimano for like 2.5 years, and these were kind of the first early like low profile style that had higher leverage ratio and also had servo wave levers. So you can see in the servo wave here with the little window, it changed the progressiveness or basically the pull factor of the cable so that you could get the pads to the rims quick. Once you hit the rim, you still had really good modulation. And you'll also notice the front ones are different than the back ones. The new style Shimano brake wouldn't really work with the tension disc because the wheel would flex so much that the old style cantilever, new style cantilever would tend to fly in and suck into the rim, and then you'd be like, up, and you're like, there goes your run. So, you know, it's kind of funny these days. You read reviews in the magazines about bikes, and they talk about brakes, and like, oh, this one has too much power, not enough power, modulation, or we had to bleed it. Screw you guys. You have no idea what it's like racing on these bikes with these kind of brakes. Talk about constant maintenance. I don't want to hear any people whining about how horrible uni disc brakes are, because actually they're amazing. I tested a lot of different tires, but I was sponsored by Onza, and the Porcupine was always the best tire. The white Porcupine tires had significant better traction, especially in hard pack conditions. In the races I did in California at Big Bear and Mammoth, they were amazing. Sometimes when I went back to Mount Snow or Hunter Mountain in New York, where it was slippery and slimy, didn't make such a huge difference. But when it got hard packed and dry, like it was with Durango in 1990, it was awesome. I could grab the rubber and pull one of the nipples, and I could literally pull the nipple like an inch away from the tire. It was that gooey and that tractiony. Not only fashionable and sexy, tons of traction. So obviously a unique feature on this bike is the Tioga tension disc. You know, we didn't just run these because they were cool and we got paid. There was a serious advantage to having this type of wheel. Well, the tension disc took that to a whole nother level. So basically what you have is like, yes, it's cat gut. I don't know what that means if they use real cats, which would sort of be awesome. So there's strings that run across a crazy pattern that mount to these little buttons, I call them. The buttons are attached to a special nipple that holds the whole thing like a drum, holds the whole thing tight. The cool part is that it was always floating in space, which means anytime the wheel was impacted from a force down here, there's a little bit opposite and reaction up here. What it really did is it made your bike hook up, especially in corners and especially under braking or on jump landings. And let's face it, aerodynamics, believe it or not, are key. I don't care what all those downhillers say. You see how they went from baggies, now those guys are baggies are tires they can get, okay? Aerodynamics are important. And an aerodynamic wheel like this makes a difference, especially at speed. It was a bit of a struggle, honestly, and you always were wondering if it wasn't gonna fail. I know Johnny T went through more than anybody, but I don't think he really cared. You had to learn how to true them, how to tighten them, how to build them. A long, arduous process, but in the long run, looks awesome, sounds awesome, and it's just plain fast. So obviously this is a pretty special bike to me. It still has the original number plate that I used in the race. What you don't see is the pump and the seat bag and the water bottle that went with it. People didn't understand, but when we were racing back then, if you had a flat, you had to fix it yourself. And you couldn't go down and have your mechanic give you a whole new bike and a whole new wheel. So if you had a flat training, you had to fix it and go down. And even in the race run, I was not gonna carry my bike down there if I had a bad day.
Let's play Ring Around the Pillow. Okay, ready? Ready. Yes! 2 points. Okay, ready, one more time. There you go. Yes!
So one of the things that I'm into that's for pleasure and for fun is a very technical thing, and for some reason translates to building bicycle components is RC cars. You kind of get addicted. So you gotta have a lot of different kinds. Most things we run are traditional A-scale, all-wheel drive electric cars now. These cars are super fast, but of course with that, you gotta have your stacks of tires. Then you got to have all your other cars, your 10-scale cars, your truggies, short course, old school Fitzdale. Love the old school Losis, had those forever. Monster trucks. Those monster trucks are awesome because you can rampage and just piss off anybody with those things. Go to your local park, it's a blast. But the key is it's a great way to battle. You don't get hurt very often. And the main part is all that technology, for some crazy reason, translates into mountain bike parts, and that's awesome. I have 140 acres of hilly terrain. I got mountain bike trails, RC tracks, an old stagecoach road that came through my property that originally went from Durango to Ignacio. That goes through there, and then it was a reason I bought this place because it was super easy to make trails. There's like arroyos and ditches and hills. One of the biggest trophies I still have is the Porgy van. So this is the box van that I used to race around the country for 5 years, 6 years, maybe a little bit more. Originally got the van from Answer. The Honda guys were gonna get me a mechanic, which was Scott Lewis, to drive it around and get it repainted. So it was pretty awesome. We got painted in Compton. I remember when we went to pick it up, it was like super sketchy. And we had to stop and get gas. And all these people came up and was like, "You guys giving away free cigarettes? What's going on there?" I'm like, "Screw, we gotta get out of here." And one thing I love about the Porky van, this is part of my design, was the infamous shut up and ride. But of course now it's different. It's shut up and ride, brah. Hi, my name is Greg Herbold and you are on HBTV. I'm a maniac. How do you reach the speed of about 275 miles per hour? Is he scared? Yes! Ah! Okay, cut.